So we're about halfway through the NBA season so far, and I think now it is time to have these conversations. Who's going to win the 2025 MVP? I honestly believe we're at a point in the season where we can start to recognize who the finalists are going to be and who's actually going to win it. Now, unlike past years, I cannot justify talking about like 5 different candidates. In my personal opinion, there are only 3 people who have a chance to win the award this year, which is different from past years because we've had seasons where there's been a lot of different people who are up there for the award. But this year, just something is different about the conversation. And I do think this is going to be a very monumental year for the MVP award, but I'll talk about that a little bit later in the video. Also, at the end of the video, I'm going to tell you who I personally think is going to win the award, and I'll also rank all the candidates. Now, with all of that out of the way, let's try to explain the NBA MVP race in under 10 minutes. I think it's only fair we start off with the guy that just won the award last year. The same guy who has won the award the last 3 out of 4 years in a row, and that's Nikola Jokic. It feels like every season this man is in the MVP conversation, which is fair to say. I feel like this is something that I catch myself saying every single season, but Nikola Jokic is having a career year. At the time of recording this video, he's averaging about 31 points per game, 13 rebounds, and almost 10 assists, while shooting about 55% from the field and having a 3-point percentage of 47%. Now, let me give you context on how good all of these stats are. He's second in the NBA in points. He's third in the NBA in rebounds. He's second in assists, and he's number 8 right now in 3-point percentage. I think I also need to mention that over the past couple games, he's been on quite the stretch. About 4 days ago versus the Spurs, he had 41, 18, and 9. And then the day after, also versus the Spurs, he had 46, 9, and 10. Just 1 rebound shy of a triple-double. Now, unfortunately, he did not play today versus Boston. But if he did, I can only imagine what he was going to do. Now, the problem about Jokic's MVP campaign isn't the stats. Hell, the standings, I don't even know if I really want to use that as a factor. I mean, in fairness, they are number 4 in the Western Conference right now, and if the Grizzlies or Rockets went on a little bit of a losing streak and Denver was winning, they could go up to number 3 or 2. So it's not like Denver is doing bad this year. They're having a good season, and Jokic is obviously dominating, but there's a problem that we have to talk about. A lot of people are saying that Jokic has ruined the MVP award because of how many times he's won it. And they claim because of what he does in the postseason, it doesn't mean he should win the award, which I think is ridiculous to a point. There is also a bigger conversation within the award and, about history, but I'm going to talk about that in the end when I'm actually saying who I think should win it. But just know that this year it is going to have a lot riding on this MVP. All right, so I want to switch gears to a guy who is on the best team, in my opinion, the entire NBA, and that of course is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Shai, to no one's surprise, is doing well, averaging 31 points per game, having about 6 and 6, and having 2 steals and a block as well. Not to mention, I think it's important to note that OKC is currently 30 and 5. Now, at the time of recording this video, they're currently on a 15-game winning streak, but today they are playing the Cavaliers, which I think is going to be a great game.
Cleveland's 32 and 4 with an...
Oh, fuck you. But even if they lose, we all know that Shai is having an MVP type of season. I mean, it's not a surprise, but he has the stats to back it up. He's one of the best scorers in the NBA this year. The Thunder obviously have the best record in the NBA. I mean, there is literally 0 issues with Shai's game that we can look at. He's a great offensive player while also being a great defensive player. Not to mention, a lot of people are vying for Shai to finally get the award this year, because this is a guy that year after year has only gotten better, and I think this is the one year where he could be in prime position to win it. But again, the other 2 candidates he's going up against, it makes me wonder if the media is going to give him this push. Are they finally going to let Shai win the award? Me personally, I absolutely believe he deserves to be a candidate. Ever since that jump he made from 2022 averaging about 24 points a game to the following year where he started averaging over 31 points per game, this man has consistently been one of the best scorers in the NBA. And as you've seen from OKC, they've obviously gotten better over the years. So we're at a point now where this isn't just a phase. This man Shai is here to stay. He is going to be one of the best players in the NBA as time progressively goes on. The man is only 26 years old. He has so much ahead of him, but I question if the media is going to give this man the award just yet. Ladies and gentlemen, if you guys are enjoying the video so far, leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you're new. We are currently on the road to 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so if you guys want to be a part of history, then subscribe to the channel. If you guys enjoy raw, unfiltered NBA content about 3 times a week, then this is the perfect channel for you. And if you end up subscribing and you don't like the content, you can unsubscribe at any time, but it's totally free to try it out. Also, I have a small announcement. I do have my first video essay of the year coming out. So I'm looking at a text right now, and according to my editor, it should be ready on Saturday. I wish I could give you guys a little bit of a sneak peek, but unfortunately I just wasn't able to get one. But spoiler alert, it is about the FS1 lawsuit that just came out involving Skip Bayless, Joy Taylor, all that stuff. We took a deep dive into that and we looked into the legal ramifications, and I went through the entire lawsuit. Now, with all of that out the way, let's hop right back into the video. And finally, we have to talk about Giannis. Giannis is always an MVP candidate for me, and this isn't just my opinion. I feel like a lot of people also feel this way. I mean, look, his MVP case is simple. He has the stats. He is currently the leading scorer in the NBA right now. He's top 7 in rebounds and is almost 25th in assists, which is kind of crazy for what he plays. He's the best player on his team, the most valuable. That's not a question, but you could also argue he's either the best or the second best player in the NBA. To be honest, I feel like that shit changes on a day-to-day basis. But there is a big underlying issue that I think a lot of people expected me to talk about. Milwaukee this season has been bad. Now, honestly, I'd say terrible. In fairness, they are currently 18-16, which is better than the start they were having at the beginning of the season. But I just don't see a world where he wins the award by barely being over 500. Now, granted, there's over 40 games left to play, but if I'm being realistic, I think Milwaukee's gonna win maybe 45 games, and that's a best case scenario. I don't see them going on like an OKC type of win streak. I don't see them lucky into a favorable playoff spot. I see a world where they end as like the 5, maybe 6 or 7 seed, but I don't see them getting home court advantage. I don't see a lot of people talking about Giannis and the performance he's had this year, even though Giannis has been great. It just sucks. He started off in a bad position. He had to kind of dig out of a big ass hole. And unless this man Giannis goes on an absolute tear, averaging like over 35 points per game for like 2 to 3 months, and Milwaukee does not lose that many games, I don't know if there's a push he can have to make voters want to vote for him, especially because I feel like the voters have already made up their mind on 1 and 2. Okay, and with all of that being said, let's hop right into the rankings. I think number 3 is pretty obvious in the way I was talking about him, but unfortunately it's Giannis. I just don't see a world where he wins the award. The only reason I put him in a top 3 is just in case one of the guys got injured or went on a slump, but I just don't see that happening, and I don't think they're gonna give it to Giannis. Now, number 2, this is where the entire conversation of this video needs to be had, because I need to ask you guys a question. Is the NBA willing to let history be made by giving Jokic another MVP? Because according to NBA history, there have only been 5 players to win 4 MVP awards. Not in a span of years, no, just in their entire career. And that list goes Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Michael Jordan, Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, and LeBron James. Now, all of these guys are arguably top 10. Hell, I think it's pretty conservative to say they're all easily top 10, most of them top 5. So are you willing to tell me that the NBA is okay with saying Nikola Jokic is already a top 10 player? Because if you are, then fine, give him the award. But I don't know if the NBA is willing to do that. I don't know if voters are going to put him in that conversation. When we go back in history and we look at the 2020s, are people going to say that Nikola Jokic owned this decade? Because judging by a lot of metrics, you could argue that Jokic has owned this decade. But some people, when they talk about this decade so far, I don't really see them bringing up Jokic as that guy. And as much as I love Jokic and I love what he's done this year, I just don't think they're gonna give him the award for the 4th time in 5 years. Because if they do, then they are admitting that they think either A, Jokic is a top 10 player all time, or B, they have fucked up the MVP voting the past 5 years. It does truly suck because Jokic is a great player, but I just don't know if when we go back in history, we're gonna look at these MVPs and say, did he really deserve them? I mean, the way people talk about Steve Nash and the way he won his MVPs, I wonder if people are gonna have the same conversation but worse. Look, all I'm saying is that if Jokic deserves it, he deserves it. When it comes to stats, he obviously has them. I mean, I said this earlier, year, but again, it seems like every season I'm saying he's having a career year, another career year. It just doesn't stop. Like, this man has gotten better with time, and I don't know what his peak is. But if we're going off narrative, and if the NBA media just doesn't want Jokic to win, then Shai is 100% going to win it. Now, don't get it twisted. I think Shai deserves it. In fact, this man has been my MVP choice since like game 10. But knowing who Jokic is and knowing how well this man does, I just think there's a small part of me that thinks that Jokic could possibly swoop in and win it. Look, all I'm saying is if Shai has like a bad stretch of like 10 games, then Jokic is going to win it again. So as long as Shai is consistent, as long as OKC keeps doing well, then I do think Shai is going to win the MVP this year. I mean, it's either that or we completely do a fucking 180 and just give it to Wemby. I mean, hell, I wouldn't mind that, but I know a lot of people would get pissed off at that.
Turn on the lights in here,